Welcome back to another division breakdown episode. Today we are breaking down the AFC South. This division is not a very tough division. It looks like heading into the season. We're curious to see kind of how things play out there, but I'm excited to go ahead and give you our deep dive in here about the AFC South. If this is your first division breakdown here, then you know what we're doing is we're just going team by team, division by division, breaking down, each team, giving the additions, the subtractions, our thoughts on each team, and how they're looking to shape up for this upcoming season. And then we'll give you at the end our final predictions of the final standings. All right, so we're not predicting any records, just how the final standings are going to show up. So Chase, you ready to go ahead and get started?
I am ready. This is a team that I'm very, very in love with right now. Both of these two teams I'm going to talk about today. I'm in love with, so I can't wait to get into this.
Let's go ahead and do it. So we got it broken down, right? Two teams each. So Chase, I know you're rearing to go, so let's go ahead and give us with your first team.
All right, I think this is pretty obvious. My first team is the Jacksonville Jaguars. I am all on the Jaguars train, man. That last 8 games with Doug Peterson sold me. So let's talk about the MVP. That's right, I'm calling it MVP, Trevor Lawrence. Let's talk about how good this guy is going to be next year. He was already one of the best quarterbacks last year, overlooked a lot, through 4,000 yards last season with 25 touchdowns, only 8 touchdowns. Or 8 interceptions. He's got a running back room of Travis Etienne. They brought in Tank Bigsby from the draft. A lot of people's kind of favorite. He kind of lit up the Senior Bowl a little bit, Ole Miss bruiser type. They still have JaMychal Hasty, who played decent when they traded James Robinson last year. The wide receiver room is kind of where it gets exciting, right? Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, they look like all pros running around on the field. Add in Calvin Ridley to that team. I've seen Calvin Ridley, he's put out warm-out videos. Of course, he's going to look good in those, but he looks really good. There's that video of Zay Jones and him working out. Zay Jones runs a 4.3 40, and he's making Zay Jones look like a grandma. Calvin Ridley is going to be a problem. You go into that same side of the ball. Evan Ingram now, tight end, had his best year of all time last year. I'm going to say he played. He's kind of on that, still not sure if he's going to play yet. He doesn't like the franchise tag. I think they got something done, but he's still just a little sketchy. I'm going to say he's playing. He can't afford to miss out with him. Then their biggest loss of the season, of course, they lost Jawan Taylor to my boy Garrett's Chiefs. Right, he left them. They drafted Anton Harrison, who I was really high on anyway coming into the draft. They drafted him, plug and play right there. They still have Cam Robinson. They have Walker Little, who's played a little bit when Cam Robinson got hurt last year. Looked solid. That offense is going to flourish under Doug Peterson. Then you move to the defensive side of the ball. They've got 2 of these guys with the funky names just tearing up business down in Jacksonville. They got Florunso Fatukasi and that defensive tackle just stopping everything going up the middle. Then they got Forsay Aluakon as their middle linebacker. Actually led the league in tackles last year. I bet you a lot of people knew that. This guy's a baller. They still have Josh Allen, who is a stud. Drafted him 7th overall. He's been great since drafted. Tyson Campbell, one of the most underrated cornerbacks in the draft. Devin Lloyd, who played amazing at the very beginning of the season. End of the season, didn't look like he should be on the field, didn't know where he was. I think they can get that. He was only a rookie. And to round that out, they did lose Ronnie Harrison to a division rival, the Colts, which I'll talk about later. But they brought in Antonio Johnson, I think our collective second best safety in this draft class. So very excited. Doug Peterson's going to have these Jags going nuts. And I'm going to call it here. I think the Jags are the 2 seed in the AFC. I'm that confident on them.
Let's go. Listen, what the Jags were able to do last year, especially there towards the end, was phenomenal, right? I mean, coming off of two consecutive seasons with the number 1 overall draft pick, right? Things are just looking down in the dumps and very, very meek, right? Not a lot of good things. Even after they drafted Trevor Lawrence, there's not a lot of good things coming out of Jacksonville. The whole Urban Meyer situation obviously didn't work out, but then they brought in Dougie P, who I think should have won Coach of the Year last year. I think he was definitely the Coach of the Year last year, but that's okay. To go in and finish like that, where they started off they did not start off good at all, and they turned it on right, won a playoff game. Even that was in question in the first half compared to the second half. It took a master choke job by the Chargers from the win, but still got to the playoffs, right? Won the division, got to the playoffs, won a playoff game. Then lost to Kansas City, obviously. So their turnaround just in year one of Doug Peterson was phenomenal. So you can only expect bigger and better things from Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars after having another full offseason in that system. And then I love the addition of Calvin Ridley. I mean, if Calvin Ridley is even, you know, it'll be interesting to see because we saw what Deshaun Watson looked like after a year off of football. So I'm curious to see what Calvin Ridley's going to look like. I think that it's going to be easier for wide receiver to come back from a break than it is for a quarterback, though. So I don't think that year off is going to be a detriment too much to him. I think just help him get 100% healthy, where he can go out there and he could ball out. I thought it was pretty ballsy of him to wear number 0, right? For just flexing the amount of games that he played last year. It's a pretty big flex. But I'm expecting big things from Calvin Ridley. You didn't even mention Christian Kirk. I don't think I'm expecting big things from Christian Kirk as well. I think Kirk and Trevor Lawrence had a really good chemistry last season, and so I'm excited to see what that would develop and look like for this upcoming season. So they definitely got. I'm not going to say all the pieces together, but they've got a lot of the pieces together to really go out and compete. I think it's a pretty bold take for them to be at number 2, but obviously, I think they're definitely going to be up there as one of the top contenders of the AFC as well.
Yeah, I looked at their schedule earlier, and we know we're not doing their schedule breakdowns, but they play really 4 hard games, right? They play the Bengals, which that's a toss-up. I think the Bengals might be a better team. The Niners, I think, are definitely a better team. The Chiefs, who I think are definitely a better team. Then they play the Bills. The Bills is the second London game, and they're staying over there, so they'll have almost home field advantage there. The Bills will have that jet lag. I think at least 2 of those may be winnable. I think the Bills one is definitely winnable for them. I think that's probably their only rough games. They've got a pretty easy schedule playing the rest of this division, which we'll talk about. Isn't really that hard. I'm expecting huge things out of the Jags this year.
Yeah, I mean, when the schedule list came out, we even said that they have one of the easiest schedules. I mean, they have a very, very favorable schedule, even after finishing first place in the division last year, right? Just the way everything is kind of lined up for them via the divisions that they play. Obviously, their own division is setting them up for success. So, I can definitely see the path. Right, the path is there. Right, I won't say the path isn't there, but it's just we still got to just wait and see how everything plays out, because there's always going to be that one team that you don't think is going to be good that kind of is good, and that might give some competition to the Jaguars. But I just the AFC is loaded, all right, no matter how you want to slice it. So yeah, it's gonna be tough for everybody to finish here, so it's gonna be a fun race to see. But I'll go ahead and give you my first team here. I've got the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans. It's crazy to see the kind of the fall we've seen from the Titans. We're just removed from 4 years ago, I believe, where they were playing in the AFC Championship. One game away from going to the Super Bowl, and now this is where we're at. So the state of their offense is kind of what I want to touch on first, because I mean, they badly needed to sign DeAndre Hopkins, right? They were in the D-Hop sweepstakes. They won him away from the Patriots because their wide receiver room is just terrible. I mean, without DeAndre Hopkins, they had their wide receiver one of Traylon Burks, who showed flashes, but he only caught 33 balls for 444 yards and only 1 touchdown last season. So it didn't really show a lot. Wasn't really working with much, granted, but didn't show enough, especially for me to be confident in him being the wide receiver one going into the season. Obviously, they felt the same, right? So they brought in DeAndre Hopkins to be the clear wide receiver one, right? Every single time they pass the ball, it's going to go to DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, if we're just being honest, right? If he's double team or triple team, Ryan Tannehill is going to force it. It's going to lead to multiple turnovers, but that's just going to be the D-Hop effect in this offense. I don't see anybody here, taking away catches from D-Hop. Literally, the only person that's going to take catches away is going to be Derrick Henry, because they're obviously going to be a run-focused team, right? So the one bright side on the offense is Derrick Henry. Obviously, one of the top tier running backs in the NFL, who seems to just keep getting better. Right, it's weird when we think of the running back kind of how it is, where it's the longer they play, the worse that they get, and it seems kind of different here for Derrick Henry. The longer he plays, it seems kind of the better that he gets. So definitely a bright spot there in the offense. But Ryan Tannehill is coming into his contract year. This is most likely going to be his last year. I would predict this is going to be his last year as a starter. If he stays in the NFL, it's going to be as a backup. If he does choose to stay, they did trade up in the second round to get Will Levis after Malik Willis had some opportunities last season and didn't really do anything. Obviously, they didn't really help him at all either to succeed. But there's going to be kind of that quarterback controversy here moving forward. We'll see if they get to it sooner, depending on how they play with Ryan Tannehill, if they move off of him and decide to give, Malik Willis more of an opportunity, or even Will Levis at this point, right? As of this recording, right, Will Levis is still third string, and still got plenty of preseason left to go to see if that changes. But that'll be kind of interesting to see. Another biggest thing is going to be their offensive line. They lost the whole entire left side of their offensive line. So they're trying to replace that production that was so good in the run game. That was what has led to a lot of success from Derrick Henry, right? Taylor Lewan's gone, Nate Davis is gone, Ben Jones are all gone. They try to bring in replacements. They've got Andre Dillard, former first-round pick. They got Peter Skoronski here in this last draft to come in as left guard there for at the pick number 11. And so they're just, trying some things to kind of reestablish that line. So that's going to be interesting. They're a whole brand new left side of the line. See how that pans out. To see if they're able to, replicate that run blocking success for Derrick Henry, right? We know the offense is going to go through Derrick Henry, and they're not going to really trust Ryan Tannehill to throw the ball. And when he does, it's going to go to DeAndre Hopkins. So as far as the state of the offense goes, as we know, it's going to be Derrick Henry, and the occasion is going to be D-Hop trying to make those plays when they're too far away to run the ball. So I'm not expecting too much from the offense really at all. But, things can happen, obviously. But that's kind of the state of the offense. The defense, again, they lost a lot of people on defense as well. Terrell Basham, Bud Dupree, DeMarcus Walker, Zach Cunningham. I mean, they lost a lot of people up front there in the trenches, and they didn't really do that much to replace it. The good news is they still keep Kevin Byard there, so he'll be there. But they have a very young cornerback group. They have Jeffrey Simmons still, so that's good. So I mean, there are still kind of some bright spots there in the defense. But still nothing too crazy, like nothing that you're going to be, scared to go against on a Sunday. Now, granted, what I will say about the Titans is they have one of the greatest coaches in the NFL. In the NFL, Mike Vrabel is a fantastic coach who always gets the most out of his guys. So they're going to play. They're going to play for him. They're going to play tough. They're not going to be an easy out. I wouldn't say, especially in the division. I think they're going to, for the most part, at least towards the beginning of the season, I think it's going to be close. And we'll see how it kind of plays out. But they're going to be a tough out. I don't think you're going to be able to go in and walk over them. But at the end of the day, I don't think the firepower on offense is going to be good enough to go up to a majority of the teams that they're going to have to play this season, especially in the AFC. And obviously, that's going to come back and bite them. So, yeah, not too high on the Titans. I think the Jags are a mile ahead of the Titans right now, when it felt like just 2 years ago was the complete reverse. So it's crazy how fast that can change the NFL. But the Titans, as much as they've tried to do some things, if the ship is sinking, and right now they are just putting duct tape on the holes. They are not filling any positions of great need with great talent. They're just trying to slap duct tape on the side, and they're still bailing water.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. Tennessee, the bright spots do not outshine the holes and the problems that they're going to have. It's crazy, that 2019, they were in the AFC Championship. That was kind of a miracle run, right? They weren't very high seed. I mean, they had home field, but they had to go to the Ravens, kind of beat the Ravens. They beat another team, I can't even think who it is right now, that they weren't supposed to. They were doubted throughout the playoffs, and then they're instead of riding on that like most teams do, they kind of faded back, and they've regressed every year since. It's crazy that their rookie quarterback is third string against, the quarterback they drafted the last year, Malik Willis, who Vrabel came out, or I think maybe his offensive coordinator came out and told him that we told him not to throw the ball the second half of the Chiefs game because they thought they could win it if he just stopped turning the ball over, so that the rookie quarterback is behind a guy that they didn't trust enough to throw a ball in an actual game. Doesn't look too good for them. I mean, I'm hoping both of them turn out, right? We don't want anything bad to happen or wish any badness on either Will Levis or Malik Willis. But yeah, I'm not very high on the Tennessee Titans. One thing is, you talked about it, Vrabel. He gets the people bought in. People love to play for him. They've got that Tennessee. I don't even know. The Patriots had that Patriots way. Tennessee's got something of that, right? But it's a little bit more fun with Vrabel. But it's still the Patriots way. He's a Patriots guy. It's the buy into the team first mentality. I just don't think that's enough to overcome their holes this year.
I agree. It's gonna be tough. I forget I even got to mention they were even the 1 seed a couple years ago. The
Oh, that's
year
right.
the year the Rams won the Super Bowl, they were the 1 seed in the AFC. So it's crazy to think
Crazy.
how far they've fallen. But that's the beauty of the NFL is you can be the top team in the league 1 year and then you can be towards the bottom in the next.
Yes. Yes. All right, I'll take that and I'll roll the dice with my last team here for the AFC South. It's the Indianapolis Colts. Now, if you guys have been watching any episode, you guys know how I feel about Anthony Richardson, right? I think this guy has Rookie of the Year potential. If you haven't, go watch his preseason game. He played a couple of series. There was a couple bad things, but you can see where he's working out. You can see him reading the defense, his agility. He threw one really bad pick, and it was more the receiver ran the wrong route, and then he forced it in there, thinking his arm's strong enough. He's just got to understand that this is now NFL ball, but I think he's going to be fine. I'm going to say JT plays, right? That's the big story. We've covered that. Jonathan Taylor doesn't want to play. He's negotiating a contract way early. Jim Irsay has come out and said that the NFL goes on if they both die. I mean, just crazy things. We've talked about that. But I'm going to say he plays because I just want to see that rushing attack, right? It's going to be one of the best rushing attacks. They brought in an offensive line coach. Hopefully get that offensive line that went from one of the strongest offensive line, allowing Jonathan Taylor to boost his numbers even more the year that he had last year to, 2 years now, to last year. They were awful. They brought in the worst quarterback in the NFL the past 3 seasons, Matt Ryan, to be their quarterback, and it just failed completely. That team sank. They had the 4th overall pick for a reason. I believe they got better in the draft, right? And then their wide receiver room's not even that bad right now. Alec Pierce last year in the draft, that guy's a baller from Cincinnati. Little great white hope, right, that can jump as high as he can to go get those balls. Michael Pittman's still there. I think he got a little bit overhyped a couple of years ago because of all the fantasy aspects. He's still a very solid wide receiver. Let me tell you about the X factor on this offense, though. Jelani Woods. Jelani Woods, the tight end, he is 6'7", 253. At his combine, he ran a 4.61. This guy is insane athletic. He actually scored a perfect 10 on the RAS score, the relative athletic score. This guy is a perfect athlete, and I think that if they can unlock even just a fraction of Jelani's athleticism to football, because we all know athletes always don't make football, right? John Ross, great athlete, couldn't track a football, right? Didn't pan out in the NFL. So hopefully that they can unlock that. I think he could be a real big X factor. The Colts have had success in tight ends before. Eric Ebron had like a 13 touchdown year. Jack Doyle was a household name for a little bit. Then I think what really makes this Colts team special is I believe this defense will be able to overpower and kind of help them with the rookie struggles that Anthony Richardson is going to have as a rookie, right? This defense has Kwity Paye and DeForest Buckner on the defensive line, both very solid. DeForest Buckner is a really, really underrated D tackle coming from San Fran a couple of years ago. They have Kenny Moore. He was an all-pro 2 years ago. He's one of the most underrated players in the all of NFL, great cornerback. And the big thing that they got is Shaq Leonard is coming back. He didn't play at all last year. He was injured. And he's coming back. When he was a defensive rookie of the year, this guy is going to be a big problem. And I didn't even mention they brought in Shane Steichen from the Philadelphia Eagles. You've seen how well that offense looked like. That wasn't all Steichen, but at least a part of it was. Hopefully he can bring a little bit of that Philly magic to the Indianapolis Colts. This isn't their year. I know I'm hyping them up a little bit, but I think they are on the horizons. We just talked about Tennessee's kind of a sinking ship. This one's just starting to sail. Right, it can sink, but right now it's got some bright spots that it's just starting its journey.
It is. I mean, there's if you're a Colts fan, there's a lot to look forward to. Obviously, the quarterback position with the untimely retirement of Andrew Luck was just something they weren't able really to figure out, no matter how hard they tried. Right? I mean, Andrew Luck was he was going to be a Hall of Famer.
Special.
I mean, he was such a special player. It sucks that they didn't do enough to protect him in his time there, that he had to retire so early. Um, I mean, they would have gone from, they almost kind of pulled a Green Bay Packers. They went from Favre to Rodgers, from Manning to Luck. I mean, those were some good years that they had with Luck. So,
Yes.
and so, afterwards that trying to bounce around, right? They tried going through Jacoby Brissett. That didn't work. They got to do Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan. Honestly, just kind of plug and playing at the most important position, trying to just get a starter in there to do something, right? And that's not how you want to handle the situation. So new regime comes in, kind of takes over there, like you said, with Steichen. So they think they got their guy in Richardson. That's just going to be how fast can he develop. The talent is there, but to me, it's just so raw. The talent is just so raw, and it's gonna. I think it's going to take some time for him to kind of put all those pieces together to go out there and be somebody that you can really trust, with the ball in his hands to win you some football games. And so that's just going to be it, with the Colts is going to be how fast can they develop him, and it's going to be fun to watch for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I'm very interested in see how the Colts develop this season. I don't expect a whole lot out of them, but I just want to see Anthony Richardson get better game after game.
Yeah, at that point, it's kind of what you have to hope for. Right? That's how you're going to know. Maybe you got your guys if he's going to be able to, overcome those struggles, which he's inevitably going to have, and just get better each game. So, I yeah, so excited to watch. AR. I guess I keep calling it AR-15, but he's not 15 anymore. He's
it's
5.
5.
He's 5.
Yep.
AR-5 now. So, see how AR-5 does it. So it'll be. Listen, I don't really care about the Colts either way, but it's going to be super fun to watch Anthony Richardson out there play every Sunday for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And last but certainly not least, we have the Houston Texans. The Texans have been busy this offseason. So they've done a lot of free agent signings, right? Sheldon Rankins, Shaquille Griffin, Denzel Perryman, Devin Singletary, Robert Woods, Noah Brown, Case Keenum, Chase Winovich, Hassan Ridgeway. I mean, they've on both sides of the ball, they've gone to town in the offseason. My two favorite additions, one for offense, one for defense. My favorite audition on offense from free agency, right? We'll get to the draft here a bit. It was tight end Dalton Schultz. They stole it from the Dallas Cowboys. Schultz in his time in Dallas, he was amazing. We were talking about like the production that needed there. I mean, his career in Dallas: 226 passes, 20 touchdowns, 33 missed tackles. I mean, the dude was a baller. The tight end position. And him and Dak had an incredible relationship. So we'll see what his relationship is like with Stroud coming in. But Dalton Schultz is the stud. And my favorite free agent signing on defense is going to be safety Jimmy Ward. He's following his old defensive coordinator, D'Amico Ryan, from the 49ers over to Texans. And he's going to be that veteran safety there in the secondary to help coach up those young guys. They still have cornerback Devin Singletary, I think year 3 now, if I'm not mistaken. So he's shown flashes, haven't been able to put it all together yet. So have somebody, a veteran DB there to be able to coach him up. I think it's going to be super beneficial. Obviously as well, bringing in D'Amico Ryan from the 49ers. We saw what he was able to do in the 49ers on their defense. It seems like it's not very hard to do that when you have that kind of talent, but still, got to give him props. He got a fantastic reunion coming back to the Texans, where he played for. It seems hopefully the Texans have finally got their guy. All right, for the past 2 years, they've been doing one and done head coaches. Obviously, not a way you want to run your organization as well. We talked about the Colts being one and done with quarterbacks. You can't be successful when you're one and done with head coaches. All that turnover, because it's not just the head coach, right? It's the assistant coaches, it's the coordinators, like all that stuff is changing when you get a new head coach. And so it's just impossible to be successful when you don't have that stability, at the very top, right? Let alone at the bottom with the players, but at the top with the coaching staff, it's just impossible to have success. And so they hopefully they've got that figured out. They believe they got that figured out. I don't have anything, to say D'Amico Ryans isn't going to be able to be the guy. We'll see what happens. But the core foundation, I think, is there based on the free agency, and obviously they added that to the draft, right? So obviously the biggest thing is they got their quarterback and pick number 2, C.J. Stroud of Ohio State, and then with a massive trade up with the Cardinals, they grabbed Will Anderson Jr. out of Alabama. So they got one of the top quarterbacks and then the top defensive player for sure in the draft. So they're set up with talent at superstar positions on both sides of the ball. So, not to mention also wide receiver Tank Dell from Houston, and I love Henry Tuoto from Alabama. They got a lot of players there, but Tank Dell had we're just one season into preseason, but he balled out in that game. I don't put too much stock on preseason, but you got to ball out when you can, and he definitely balled out there. So he looks like he's going to be a fun player to watch. So I love those additions, right? So obviously it's going to be, did they get it right at the quarterback position? Is CJ Stroud the guy moving forward that can be this team's franchise quarterback, right? We saw him do one drive and it wasn't good, and that's fine. Like, stop overreacting. Like, he's going to be fine. I'm super excited to watch CJ Stroud continue to grow. He's definitely more polished than some of the other quarterbacks in the draft. Like, we're talking about Anthony Richardson. Like, CJ Stroud is definitely more polished, definitely more NFL ready. And so it's just going to be a matter of time before he can get in there, get comfortable, and figure it out. Once he gets in a role, I think I think that he's going to be fantastic. And so, I mean, the Texans, honestly, last year, yes, they had a horrible record, but they were in close games. It wasn't like they were just getting routed, every single game. They played the Cowboys close game. They took the Chiefs to overtime. Like, they didn't just roll over, right? They were competitive. They have a very competitive spirit about them where they don't lose easily. They could have had the first overall pick, but last game of the season they decided to win in a crazy fashion to get pick 2. So there's no quit in this team. I'm excited to see what this team looks like moving forward to get them more competitive, because they were competitive. They were in the conversation for one of the best teams in the league just 3 or 4 years ago, right when Deshaun Watson was at the helm. And then after losing Deshaun Watson, it all kind of fell apart. So they're trying to get back together with that. So it's all riding on CJ Stroud. But I think they've got the core to do it, and it's going to be just building up around them. So this season is going to be, obviously we're in this rebuilding year. There's going to be struggles, but I think we're going to see a lot more good than bad this season for the Texans. I'm excited to watch them play.
Yeah, I'm excited for Houston. They I think the most noteworthy or most influential, I guess, thing that they did this season is I believe they finally got a coach that wants to be in Houston, right? D'Amico Ryan had other interviews lined up and he turned them down because he knew he wanted to go back to Houston, where he won Defensive Rookie of the Year, in 20, I think it was 02, I think it maybe was. I don't quote me on that, but he is a guy that wants to be there, wants to build this team up. That's huge from a coach that be able to want to have this team who's really, besides a couple years with Watson, since they've entered, has not been good at all. Right? They've been struggling with quarterbacks since Watson, besides Watson, right? They had a couple good years with him, but David Carr didn't work out. Then they had Tony Banks didn't work out in there. They tried Davis Mills, and even though he was average at best, I would say, right? Tom Savage played a couple games for him. I mean, it was just not a good look for Houston. I think they finally have a coach that is able to put some love into that team, and hopefully they have a quarterback that can make it work. I'm excited to see, kind of like the Colts, they're just starting their journey, right? And what a better conference to do it in, with three of these teams kind of feeding on that bottom of the boat area. You guys can make a splash in this conference.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, there's our in-depth analysis. There are the 4 teams in the AFC South. So time to give our final prediction standings of how this division is going to look at the end of the season. Chase, I'll let you go ahead and give us your final standings here for the AFC South.
Absolutely. I've got Jacksonville Jaguars, obviously easily winning this, right? They're my number 2 seed already. I'm so high on Jacksonville. Then I've got a huge gap, and then I have Indy and Houston. I think Indy just edges them. I think their defense is better. I think they have already set players. Again, we talked Houston's a very younger team. I think it's going to take a little bit longer for their defense to even get the clicking, even with the Miko Ryans there. Then I have Tennessee at the very bottom. I'm not high on Tennessee. We've already kind of talked about that. I think Tennessee might finish with the top 5 pick this year.
Wow. All right. So I've got the Jags here at number 1 as well. I don't think there's a division with a more clear-cut favorite, in my opinion. Like, I can make the case, for every other team probably, or for every other division. not for the Jags. I think Jags are far and beyond like the best team in that division, like
Yes.
not even close. I actually went Titans as second,
Wow.
just because I'm not high on them at all. But like I said, the players that they have, the veteran players with the Vrabel, I do think they're going to be better than the Texans or the Colts. Just historically speaking, and just what I believe, I don't think the Texans or Colts are there yet where they can go out and compete necessarily. And I think the Titans are. Um, the Texans can't. The Texans can't beat the Titans to save their life. Derrick Henry has the best games of his life against the Texans. So just different things like that, to where I think the Titans aren't going to have a winning record, but they'll still beat out these two. And then I have the Houston Texans in third, and I actually have the Colts in last.
Yeah, I understand.
Sorry. So the reason why I have the Colts in last place is just because I do think that Anthony Richardson is going to be the starter. And then I think obviously CJ Stroud is going to be a starter for the Texans. So honestly, it's just right now, which quarterback do I like more? I like CJ Stroud more than I like Anthony Richardson, just because I think Anthony Richardson is still too raw. And I think that it's going to take him a while to kind of shake off the bad habits, the things that he did in college, the things that he was able to get away with just because of pure athleticism is not going to fly in the NFL. You're going to have more sound technique, more structure, and that's going to take a while, I think, to coach out of him. That's not a knock on him at all.
No.
I just think it's just, whenever you're that athletic, you can rely on that, but you in college. But now you're in the NFL, right? Everybody's like that. And so it's going to be harder to, it's just going to be more difficult to coach out that kind of stuff. That's not going to fly in the NFL. Whereas CJ Stroud, I think, came in with not a lot of bad stuff that you need to coach out of. And so that's kind of what my deciding factor there. So I like the Texans more than I like the Colts due to that reason. The other reasons, but that reason the most.
Yeah, no, I understand that completely. I can see that happening. I'm just going with, I think offensive line is so important in the NFL. And I think the Colts have the second best offensive line in this division, Houston next. And I think that Tennessee offensive line is going to be a very, very bad show for them. And I'm honestly, a little worried about Derrick Henry. This is now his fourth year in the league, leading the league in carries. He gets better every year, but historically we know that doesn't happen, right? He's got to be coming to a part, and I can see maybe midseason this year that him starting to get a little bit weary with all these carries that he's had. So I hope not, but that's just what I'm basing it off of. I think that team's going to be Derrick Henry led, and I don't think Derrick Henry is the player that he was, a couple years ago when he had that 2K season. So
yeah, no, makes sense. So definitely be an interesting division to keep our eye on there. To kind of who beats out who for the bottom tier, right? Jags definitely be number one. So kind of 2 through 4 will be kind of interesting to see how that plays out. But that's going to be our division breakdown there for the AFC South. Let us know in the comments what you think. If you disagree with us, if you agree with us, if you are in on Chase hot take, the Jags are going to be number 2 overall in the conference, or if you think he's crazy, you wouldn't be the only one. Make sure you check out our other division breakdown series as we go ahead and keep rolling these out. We've only got one more division to go, and we'll hit that up next week. So if you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, and check out our other division breakdown as well as other clips here on All Things Football. We'll see you next time.